Welcome to Venezuela Insider, the only place in Venezuela for expats, digital nomads, entrepreneurs, investors, travelers, and related internationals. For more information, venezuelainsider.com. One of the things, because Venezuela is on the map, is very known of, is oil. Venezuela is a powerhouse regarding oil and gas. It has the largest proven oil reserves on the world. Also is a founding member of OPEC, and all the controversy, all the mayhem caused by just the sheer existence of oil in Venezuela, and also provided some prosperity at sometimes on the past and maybe in the future. That's why you might care to know a little bit of this review of the Venezuelan oil history. So let's start. The Venezuelan oil history starts at 1875 after an earthquake that caused an oil spill that started on the state called La Alquitrana on Táchira state. After that, the company known as the Petrolía del Táchira was founded. After 1904, the then president Cipriano Castro drafted the new mining code that gave the first legal background, legal frame of how oil was due to be exploited and taken advantage for financial reasons. By 1908, the then president Juan Vicente Gómez started signing concessions to close people and international oil companies like Royal Dutch Shell or just Shell, among other main companies. By 1914, it was founded the first important oil field, known as Mene Grande, and the first oil well started to be exploited, known as Sumane 1. By 1922, another major oil field was discovered on Venezuela. It was Campo La Rosa or La Rosa oil field on the Zulia state. Zulia will become the epicenter of the oil industry in Venezuela during the 20th century. By 1929, Venezuela became the second largest oil producing nation, just behind the United States. By 1943, the then president Isaías Medina Angarita drafted another legal framework for the oil industry that was known as the Ley de Hidrocarburos or Hydrocarbon Law, that basically said that the revenue of the oil industry is going to go 50% for the companies and 50% for the Venezuelan state. By 1945, Venezuela was an ally on the World War II, and it was producing 1 million barrels per day of crude oil, and of course a powerhouse on such industry. By 1950, Middle Eastern nations became major players on the oil international industry. The production on nations like Saudi Arabia, Iran, and United Arab Emirates became major players, and due to the production and the surplus on the oil market, make that the prices of crude oil plummeted back then. By 1960, the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries was founded, also known as OPEC. Venezuela was one of the founding members of such organization alongside Saudi Arabia, and Kuwait. By 1976, the then President Carlos Andrés Pérez, on his first term, established the infamous Oil Nationalization that made the Venezuelan state the owner and the ruler of the oil industry in Venezuela, and also that year was the foundation of PDVSA, the state-owned oil company known as Petróleos de Venezuela, or PDVSA. By 1986, PDVSA purchased the U.S. company Citgo, on buying 50% stake on such company. And by 1919, PDVSA purchased the full stake of Citgo and became the Venezuelan state indirectly the sole owner of this very important U.S. oil company. On the 1990s decade, PDVSA purchased refineries on U.S., Germany, the Caribbean island, and by then it was producing 3.3 million barrels per day, one of the highest production on Venezuelan history, and of course that created a lot of revenue for the Venezuelan government. By 2002, we have the infamous oil strike in PDVSA. Back then, the PDVSA workers, aka the oil workers in Venezuela, set a strike in order to overthrow the then President Hugo Chavez. They were protesting and halted production until Hugo Chavez renounced and presented the resignation of the Venezuelan presidency. That didn't happen though. Hugo Chavez fired basically most of the Venezuelan oil workers, and they were replaced by less prepared, less known employees that at the same time they were more loyal to Hugo Chavez and the Chavismo revolution. On the 2000s decade, it was produced the work on Iraq, one of the most important oil producing nations, and during this decade it was produced what is known as the commodities boom or commodities supercycle. Of course, oil led the charge, and on that decade the average prices on the open market was around $100 per barrel. On 2011, the oil production declined from 3 million barrels to 2.38 million barrels per day during the presidency in PDVSA of Rafael Ramírez. That Rafael Ramírez set a decade of rampant corruption and inefficiency and ineptitude on the state-owned company. Allegedly, Ramírez is one of the richest men in Venezuela, and right now he is exiled at Italy. On 2019, the oil production plummeted to 870,000 barrels per day. This decade was set by corruption and efficiency on PDVSA. The biggest man to blame, Rafael Ramírez, and after that it was just an embarrassment of results by PDVSA and the state-owned company and just the Venezuelan oil industry overall. On 2020, during the COVID-19 crisis worldwide, the oil production in Venezuela reached its lows on 70 years at 400,000 barrels per day. Now, what's the future of the Venezuelan oil industry? And it's more promising than you might think. Venezuela still holds the largest oil reserves on the world by far. That's 300 billion barrels. That's 18% of the known oil reserves on the world. That's more than Saudi Arabia. That's twice as Canada, 4 times more as Russia, and 8 times more than United States, 12 times more than China, and 25 times more than neighboring Brazil. Not also that, the cost of producing such oil per barrel is a little bit less than $8 of total production cost, and the total average cost of producing oil in Venezuela is a little bit over $27 per barrel. That's even lower than the average low peak on the oil market price overall. Today, Venezuela is producing 750,000 barrels per day. That is very low compared to the historic high of over 3 million barrels. Still, Venezuela has all the making to revamp its oil industry. Despite the crisis, Venezuela still has a relatively good oil infrastructure with pipelines, gas lines, refineries, and related oil facilities. Also, Venezuela has a very good and well-prepared oil workforce. Also, take into account that for the first time in many years, there is a domestic political will in order to turn around the oil industry, led by President Nicolás Maduro, and also an international political will to do business with Venezuela, not only on the government side, but also on the private sector side. Very important companies already have presence and operations in Venezuela, like the US juggernaut Chevron, that recently received a US license by the US State Department, the Italian Eni, Spaniard Repsol, and the Russian juggernaut Gazprom, Rosneft, and Lukoil. So, how the future of the Venezuelan oil industry is going to turn around, we don't know, but still we are hopeful for a better industry on the future. Thank you for watching Venezuela Insider. Please like, share, and subscribe. Follow us on social media. If you want to work with us, VenezuelaInsider.com. Thanks again and have a nice day.